Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Total Dragon, the show where we talk about Eric Larson's Savage Dragon and Savage Dragon related titles. My name is Mike, and today we are going to be basically doing a recap of the miniseries and kind of my thoughts and feelings about it since we just finished going through all 5 issues of the director's cut. So I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about it. And before I go any further, first of all, I want to say I really can't believe I've made this many videos. I don't think anyone at all is watching it, and I'm totally fine with that. I'm doing it just basically for the hell of it. This is an incredibly low budget production here. I literally do not want to spend any money on this. I spent God knows how much money on buying all these Savage Dragon comics, and the last thing I needed to do during a pandemic was spend uh, hundreds of dollars on Savage Dragon comic books. But hey, here we are. And the other thing is, obviously I am not a professional at doing this. I, don't have a lot of experience public speaking. I'm super, super from the country, from the deep south. So I know I sound, pretty funny, and I probably butcher a whole lot of words because I'm not used to, kind of talking in public or, talking about comic book things with a lot of people. Um, and I talk a whole lot. I talk really fast and I butcher a lot of stuff. But hey, at least I'm honest about it. I never claimed I was the most eloquent person there is. So I want to go ahead and get that out of the way. And we'll go ahead and start with the series. Savage Dragon is, to me, so far, it's definitely one, even though, it's only 5 issues that we've read. The original Larson miniseries was 3. We read the 5 issue director's cut. To me, it's really probably the best of the initial Image launch books, storytelling wise. I know a lot of people probably think that's Spawn, and you might be on to something, and you could probably really argue that opinion. But to me, I think where Savage Dragon has a leg up is, well, first of all, Eric Larson, he is definitely not the best artist from the original Founding Fathers. He kind of snuck in there. He definitely didn't have the hype that McFarlane and Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld had. He was kind of, not really the superstar that they were. He was a great guy onto his own. They just don't give you Amazing Spider-Man or Spider-Man, if you're just some schlub or whatever. So he definitely was doing his thing, but as far as being one of the iconics like Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee, one of those rock stars at the time, he was not one of those. But I think where he gets the leg up over the original guys is just his experience with comics. The Savage Dragon director's cut has all the text pages where he talks about making comic books as a kid, taking pieces of folded up paper and doing hundreds of comic books as a kid and going to small publications and doing Megaton and getting, Dragon stories put out where he could, places that companies that didn't last or never, really had no money or no advertising, and he was just still making, Savage Dragon when he could for, those companies. He seems to definitely be a better writer than a couple of the other guys. Savage Dragon, it's not really, so far what we've read, it's not groundbreaking stuff, to say the least. It's, here's this guy, he's an amnesiac, the cops need him to help him out because Chicago's being overrun, and that's about it. And then it's, off to the races. So it's not really heavy, but he seems to have an idea in the direction that he wants to go as far as battling in Chicago, fighting the super freaks. It just seems like he's got it a little bit more put together than Youngblood does. Definitely more than what Wildcats had. Maybe kind of tied with Spawn a little bit. Spawn, Todd McFarlane seemed to have kind of an idea what he wanted to do and wanted to go. He didn't really seem to have the world building ability that Erik Larsen had. But it seems like a lot. But then again, Larsen, he's been using a lot of those characters for the majority of his life in some shape, form, or fashion. He was using them, Mighty Man, Super Patriot, Overlord. He had them around, so he kind of had those in his back pocket. Even though they didn't really bear any resemblance to the characters that are on the pages now, he still had them around. But I think he kind of has the leg up as far as the initial Image series is. Maybe in small publishing, he probably had more experience with doing that, which would explain why he was able to get more of his books out a lot faster than some of the other guys was. The other thing is, if you'll notice, Spawn and Youngblood and Wildcats, they had a lot of extra merchandise and stuff going on at the time. There was cartoons, there was spin-off titles. Youngblood had Youngblood Strike Force, Brigade. So there was a lot of directions they were going. They were trying to get a Youngblood cartoon made. Spawn was going to HBO. Savage Dragon had that USA cartoon, but I think Erik Larsen didn't really have a whole lot to do with that. And if what he did, I think he kind of washed his hands of it not long after it came out. So it seems like he was really focused on just doing his little corner of the universe and not branching out. There was a couple spin-offs, Freak Force, I think that ran for 15 issues. Excuse me. But for the most part, he was really focused on just Dragon. The other thing is, I think he had a stronger history of being a writer than Jim Lee or Liefeld or McFarlane. I think McFarlane, I read somewhere that his very first book he was given was Spider-Man itself, and that's a great book to look at. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when you read it, but however, it's absolutely beautiful book. So I think Larsen, he had a leg up in that area as well. He had done a lot of work. He had that big run on Doom Patrol. I'm not sure how much he was involved in that. I think it might have just been just art, but he definitely had experienced storytelling, it seems like, as opposed to the other guys. The other thing that that you'll notice when you look at it is he is just focusing on one character. He just has the dragon. He doesn't have a team. He's not starting out with a team book. Liefeld's Youngblood and Jim Lee's Wildcats, they both started out with a team book. And a lot of those cats were really overshadowed, didn't get any experience, no character development. They were basically just, boom, here's this guy on a page holding a cool action pose. And that's about as fleshed out as they got. Dragon just having... just Savage Dragon himself, doesn't have that problem. It's just him supporting cast. So I think that kind of gives it a little extra boost as well. His art, it's really just picking up where he left off with Spider-Man. It's basically he just goes from Spider-Man to Savage Dragon and doesn't miss a beat. Doesn't try anything unusual or try to really reinvent himself in a new book. So that'll be interesting to see what kind of changes he makes as an artist as the book progresses, if any, or if he just chooses to stick with that. So that's one thing that he's sticking with, that consistency. Let's see. What else? He did do, he wrapped up that last issue, and he's relaunching with the number 1. So that's going to be interesting to see. Obviously I've read a bunch of Savage Dragon, so I know what's coming forward. He's going to have, new characters introduced, and they're going to spin off into Freak Force, and he's going to have a lot going on. So he knows what he's doing. I do find it kind of strange. I guess it's not too strange that he released a new number 1. So I guess that's kind of a good starting block. If you were just walking into the comic book shop, you'd be more inclined to pick that up, a new issue number 1 instead of issue 6. Although there wasn't a real shortage of those Image books at the time. They were printing those things hand over fist. So, but it's that ties into the whole reaching situation of Savage Dragon and Erik Larsen. This is his baby. He does he's doing what he wants to, when he wants to. Nobody looking over his shoulder, doing the dragon how he wants to. So that's one thing that I think is pretty super cool about it. And because he's not trying to tie it off into other merchandise like video games or anything like that, he doesn't have to worry about getting bogged down. So things I'm really looking forward to in the ongoing is the situation with Dragon and Frank. Will that be brought to attention? Will Frank be like, hey, look, this really blew up in my face. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to actually meeting more of the Savage Dragon supporting cast. We've seen a couple of them already, and I'm looking forward to seeing more about them, learning more about them. The nurse, who was the last person to see Mighty Man alive, we'll see her some more. Couple of his police officer friends, we'll see a couple of them get some more character development. The long-haired guy who looks suspiciously like Star, we're going to see more of him. So there's definitely a lot of stuff he's teasing that we got out of the miniseries. So it was as far as the miniseries goes, it's definitely not groundbreaking, but it's really a fun introduction to the Savage Dragon universe, and it lets us know what to expect. It's definitely a product of its era. A lot of cool 90s action scenes. Like stuff you would see in a, Die Hard movie, or, one of those straight to VHS movies they had at the time with Dennis Rodman or Brian Bosworth, those low budget action movies. So that it's definitely a lot of those scenes in there, but with superheroes instead of just regular, criminals or Yakuza. Yakuza was in every 90s movie, it seemed like. I think I even remember an episode of MacGyver where the Yakuza was in it, and for some reason they were trying to cut down trees in Oregon or something. Super weird. Oh, the one thing that I wanted to find out that I did not is who is Fred Mertz. So I am going to wrap this video up, and I'm going to find out who Fred Mertz is, and I will talk about it on the next one. I'm going to get off here, and I'm going to Wikipedia that instantly. So that's it for tonight, and can't wait to start the issue 1 of the regular ongoing, and we'll see how far we get from there. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.